I mostly read public domain books here on Glenn Reads Books to You, and they were written a long time ago, so they're usually racist, or sexist, or bigoted, but in there somewhere is a story, and that's why those stories are famous. Other times, I read works from independent authors, and they're delightfully not racist, but they might have adult language or adult situations, like, making sex. So that's your warning, but I'm sure you're grown up enough to handle it. Don't write to me complaining. Wein und Milch, bitte. Danke. Oh, son of a... What are you doing? I'm trying to learn another language. You just invite yourself here into my house like you do every damn week. Welcome to the Glenn Reads Books to You mansion. It's a fun little bit where I pretend to live in a mansion and not just recording in my basement. This is where I read the hottest public domain books and short stories. This week, we're going to have a fun little holiday episode that I squeeze in the middle called Captain Christy's Thanksgiving. It's by Sherwin Bailey, who was born October 25th, 1875, and died December 23rd, 1961, well before she had a chance to learn about the glory that was Kurt Cobain. She was an American children's author. She was born in Hoosick Falls, New York, and attended Teachers College, Columbia University, for which she graduated in 1896. She contributed to the Ladies' Home Journal and other magazines. She published volumes of stories for children like Methods of Storytelling, Teaching Children and Other Related Subjects, which include Boys and Girls of Colonial Days, Broad Stripes and Bright Stars, 1919, Hero Stories, and The Little Rabbit Who Wanted Red Wings. That sounds demonic. She wrote for the Children's Hour in 1906 in collaboration with Clara M. Lewis. In 1947, her book Miss Hickory won the Newbery Medal. Want to hear a fun fact? I got this as a public domain book off of, where'd I get it from? Do-It-Yourself Homeschooler, which sounds really unfortunate. So the fun fact is, Carolyn Sherwin Bailey was taught at home by her mother, which explains why do-it-yourself homeschooling is pushing this author. A teacher and a writer of children's books till the age of 12. Following in her mother's footsteps, Bailey's first success as a storyteller came at the age of 5, when a narrative she dictated to her mother won the $25 second prize in a magazine contest. Look at her. I don't have a whole lot of fun facts, so it's a little weird one-off holiday special. You can sit around. I hope you have your whole family sitting around the table with a giant turkey just steaming in front of you, and you're all looking at it. And you're all hearing my voice as I say, I'm going to Germany soon. I'm real old. My birthday's coming up, and I am real old. So old, it's too old, and I don't want to talk about it. So I decided I wanted to distract myself by going to Germany. And while in Germany, I can pretend that I'm still young by doing things like going to the Black Forest and buying a grandfather clock, which is something an old person would do, someone explained to me, when I should be out drinking at Oktoberfest or something like that. But now instead, I'm going to the Black Forest to go buy a grandfather clock. Not a grandfather clock, a cuckoo clock. I don't know. Anyways, so that's the stuff. So even though I'm trying to escape being old, the things that I think are fun in another country is just old people shit. I'm trying to learn some language because the last time I was in Germany for like a couple days, random people would walk up and start talking to me. So I figured I should probably learn a few things. So I've learned to say schlecht. Ich bin ein schlecht, which means I'm not good. I'm bad. So if they come up and say, oh, what time is it? I go, ich bin ein schlecht, and they'll leave me alone. So with that, why don't we go down to the library and read this Thanksgiving Day classic. Well, there you go. Have a little seat. Are you cozy here in my house where you're not invited to begin with? Why don't you get yourself all snuggled up, and would you like a slice of turkey? I have it on a plate next to you. Just simply turn your head and look toward it. Yes, there it is. Do you see it? Yes, it's room temperature. Oh, how long has it been there? That is none of your business, sir. Just go ahead and eat it. If you dare. Yeah. All right, fine, you're not going to eat it. I tried. Captain Christy's Thanksgiving by Carolyn Sherwin Bailey. Yeah, going beyond the lifeline? I have not read this yet, so God, I hope it's not racist. You're going beyond the lifeline, and the water's so rough you'll never be able to swim. Oh, Donald, don't. Come back. Don't go out so far. The voice of the boy's little sister, Nan, shrilled out over the singing surf and was lost before it reached him. The water of the bathing beach at Fisher's Point was temptingly warm for so late in the season. Inside the boundaries of the safety line that the Coast Guard had stretched to mark the danger line, where there was a crowd of merry bathers. No one's heard Nan's warning to her brother. No one saw his brown head bobbing on the far side of the rope, or noticed his arm waved above the surf in a gay challenge and goodbye. Donald was always daring in sport, but fighting ocean breakers was hard for a 12-year-old boy who would count his strokes in still water. For a moment, his white face showed above the waves. White face, I said. I don't know, whatever, I don't care. Then Donald disappeared from sight. Donald? Save my brother, Donald, Nan cried, plowing her way through the foam and up the beach. Boy gone down. Where's the Coast Guard? He's gone down twice. Well, the crowd knew now and shouted and made futile efforts to get out to him. But a slim gray boat suddenly swung out to sea from the upper end of the beach, nosing its way among the white caps like a setter scenting its fresh trail. It was manned and rowed by a crew of 4 sailors who sent it flying to the rescue. In its prow knelt an old man, his white hair, his greenish gray coat, making him look like Neptune. Suddenly he turned to give a quick order to the crew, and the boat came to a stop. Captain Christy. He'll get the boy all right, the words of huddled bathers watching comforted Nan as she ran up the beach toward the pier from which the boat had started. He's been captain of the volunteer lifeguard for 50... Volunteer lifeguard? Like volunteer fighter? Like he just sits at home and waits for a call? Or whenever this was written, probably not a call, like somebody delivering like a small letter. For 50 years, and can't remember how many lives he saved. He's taught the boys and girls who come here in the summer to swim and pulled them out when they get in too deep. Nan could hear no more, for she had reached the end of the tumble-down pier from which Captain Christy had started, and for which the boat was pulling now. Don't cry, little petrel. Well, I'm reading this off a PDF. I can't look up what petrol means. I'm guessing little girl. The captain cried as he saw Nan in her black and white bathing suit and stretching out her arms toward him. The lad's here, a bit cold, but not much worse for his visit to the fishes. As he spoke, now the boat slid alongside the pier, and the captain stepped out with Donald in his arms. Come up to my house, he said to Nan. There's a fire going there, and that's what the lad needs most now. Heat and hot drink. He strode ahead, and never go home with a strange man. He strode ahead, and Nan followed to the little weather-beaten shack. Yeah, don't go in that shack with this weird man that's a volunteer lifeguard. That's not a real thing. This is not a person you should go into his shack. That had been his only home for over half a century. Yeah, don't go in that shack. It looked like the hulk of some old wreck. Again, this is not getting any better. Washed up there on the beach, but it was bright with orange nasturtiums that bloomed in the tiny garden, and a few flaming red chrysanthemums had opened like the sun setting in red over the sea. Inside the shack, there were a few comforts. The captain laid Donald on the narrow bunk and poked the fire that smoldered in the little sheet iron stove. I'm confused. So they're at a beach. It's warm enough where people are hanging out at the beach. It's not like it's freezing cold water. It's not like it's October or something. Why does he have a fire going that he thinks this person's got to be by the fire? It's summertime, right? Go put your fire outside. Cook your food out there. I don't know. You live in a shack. It's not like you have to, like, your only place to cook is just inside the house. I'll let it go. Then he set a pot of some thick, savory stuff, don't eat it, and stirred it as a savory smell began to fill the one tiny room. Donald laid quietly for a moment. Then he opened his eyes, and the color came back to his cheeks. All at once he pulled himself up to a sitting position. Clam chowder, he said, looking about him. Yes, and you don't deserve it, you rash young scamp, Captain Christy said as he dipped up a brimming tin and mug over the chowder and put it into Donald's eager hands. What made you frighten your little sister so and send me off on a chase through the surf after you when I was just putting a mess of chowder on to warm my dinner? Oh, but the captain's harsh words ended in a chuckle as he gave Donald a resounding slap on his back. Yeah, I know what you were up to. What, masturbating in the water? You were trying to brave the sea. Oh, that's a fine spirit to have, if only you're sure enough of yourself. I must take you in hand and see that you learn how to swim better. Yeah, don't take swimming lessons from the old man that volunteer. Okay. Oh, thank you, Captain. I'm so much obliged, Donald said, getting on his feet. And so will Mother and Father, thank you, Nan said. We're going home in a week, but we'll come over and see you every day. Don't do that. Don't go to the old man in the shack. We ought to go now, for some may have told Mother about Donald, and she would be so frightened. Captain Christy went to the low door of the shack and looked out over the bare length of the beach. What's the low door of the shack? Is it one of those doors? There's like a top half and a bottom half, and each one opens separately. So he opens the bottom half and just crawls up to it like an animal and looks out of it. The bare length of the beach and the cottages, that would soon be empty. Going home, he repeated. You'll see lights in the streets at night, and you'll hear clanging bells on cars instead of the lighthouse lamp and the ringing of bell buoy out in the cold. Hey, don't you ever go away from here? Not all winter? Nan asked wistfully. I haven't seen a city or kept a holiday in 20 years, Captain Chris said. The summer folks go, but I stay here and keep warm with driftwood and listen for the cries from the wrecks. I am as busy in the winter as in the summer and terribly lonely. Little mates. Burp, the last days of the beach flew. Donald and Nan told Captain Christy goodbye, boarded the little steamer that crossed to the mainland, took the train, and the family was at home once more in the city. The beginning of school made them forget about Captain, waving goodbye to them from the pier. It was nearing Thanksgiving when their father read a newspaper headline aloud at the breakfast table. Fishing boat wrecked, saved by veteran Captain Christy of the Fisher's Point Volunteer Guard. Then he laid down the paper. That man's a hero, he exclaimed. It's cold as Greenland up at the point now, and he's close on to 70 years old. Well, that's revealing. And I find myself enchanted by the theme of old men saving young people, much like I was saved recently because I have front windows on my really old house. Those front windows are rotting. You try to open one of the windows and the frame that you're lifting up on kind of starts to shift sideways and stuff, and the glass in the center kind of slides from side to side. And so my wife and I realized, let's never open that again. So we realized we have to get new windows. So who do we call? This is actually a true story. We actually called doorglass.com. That's DORGLASS.com. It's Doorglass Incorporated. They're dedicated to fabricating and professionally installing the highest quality glass products from the nation's top manufacturers. Their inventory, combined with their years of experience, makes them the premier source for installation and repair. They approach every project with the same goals: professionalism, integrity, and they're discreet. What do? Commercial storefronts, automatic entrances, windows, patio doors, mirrors, shower doors, installation, repair, and they design and build pretty much goddamn everything. Especially when I said, I got a window that's falling apart. And they're really small, little skinny windows. It's like 3 of them in a row. And like for some reason, the little frame that they're sitting in and what separates each window is just like real thick, like a lot of wood, like a big bunch of 4x2s. It's like just really weird. So I said, can we get a better window? One I can actually open? Oh, and I tell you that Stephen Dorglass himself came to my house, and he showed up with his car, and he parked it on the street, and he said, okay, here's what I'm going to do, and he did it for a very reasonable price. So, Stephen Dorglass, I thank you, sir. And so then he put in he took out the old window, which is weird because my house is so old, I was scared there's going to be like dead mice in between the walls or something like that, but no, there wasn't. So, Stephen Dorglass took out the old windows, checked them, he actually took all the junk away, and then put in a brand new window, and oh boy, it's big, and the gaps between the windows are real small, so there's just a ton of light coming through, to the point where I'm kind of uncomfortable with it. It's like it's like taking my wall, tearing it down, and replacing it with glass. And so now there's just people on the street walking by and they're looking right into my living room and looking right at me, and I'm staring right back at them. Normally, if someone's walking by with their dog, I sit there behind my tiny windows and I just stare at them but they can't see me. It's like being in a prison with tiny little windows. They can't see, so I just watch them. Look at that person. I bet that they're an asshole. And it makes me feel schlecht. But no, instead now I get this giant picture window, and now they just walk with their dog and they stop and they stare and they look into my home and judge the furniture. So it's both a blessing and a curse, but at the end of it, Stephen Dorglass said, "Here's your window." And I said, "Wow, so much light's coming in." And he goes, "Yes, yes." And then he kissed me. He kissed me gently on the lips. He waited till my wife wasn't looking, and he gave me just a small, little sweet kiss. The kind of kiss a baby would give. The clients are Pottery Barn, Williams-Sonoma, Sherwin-Williams, Portillo's, the Salt Cave, where they say on their website, "Do not touch the walls. For the love of God, whatever you do not touch the walls." And if you do, they're probably going to sue you, but you'll definitely get hauled away by the Minneapolis police, which are the worst police in the nation, and Applebee's. Well, with that, why don't we get out of here? I want to tell you about some new books from Penguin Random House, and I have this giant mansion, which apparently is useless. It's just me and my wife here, and we only use maybe 20% of the entire building, so I feel like I gotta move around a little bit, like take advantage of some of the rooms, while we can still afford to live here. So why don't we go to a different location where I can play a guitar to you gently, and tell you about the latest books from Penguin Random House. Oh, I tricked you. I got you down here in the basement. Why in the basement? Well, no one ever hangs out in basements, and I think that they're underrated. I personally love basements. If I had a choice, would even record a podcast in one as I sit here and play this guitar to you. Do you like it? I'm getting better. I'm going to tell you about the latest books from Penguin Random House, like Never Wager with a Wallflower by Virginia Heath. It's an audiobook. It's read by Sebastian and Sasha Higgins. Great. Burp. Want to hear about the book? Sure, why not? We're already down here in the basement. Oh, this is a really long review. Never Wager with a Wallflower is the third and final delightful installment in Merriwell's Sisters Regency Rom-Com series. Oh, good, I celebrate that catalog. Miss Venus Merriwell has been waiting for her prince to come since the tender age of 14. Burp, she wants a man who is selfless, academic, like her, and free from all the wretched vices her gambler father enjoyed far too much of before he left the Merriwell sisters practically destitute. Unfortunately, after a slew of romantic disappointments, there is still no sign that the prince at 23 and the only one true love of her life is the bursting at the seams orphanage in Covenant Garden. This is like unreadable. I don't know why I'm not making sense of anything I'm reading right now. Maybe I'm having a stroke, and that's the reason why it's so confusing. Covenant Garden that she works tirelessly for, an orphanage that desperately needs to expand into the empty building next door. For Galahad St. Clair, seriously, gambling isn't just his life, it's in his blood. Oh, he grew up and learned the trade at his grandfather's knee in a tavern on the faraway banks of the Hudson, New York. But when fate took all that away and dragged him across the sea to London, it made sense to set up shop here. He spent 5 years making a success out of his gaming hell in the sleazy docks of the East End. Enough that he can finally afford to buy the pleasure palace of his dreams. Oh, and where better than the capital's sinful heart, Covenant Garden. Oh, the only fly in his ointment is the perfect building he's just brought. To put it, it also happens to be right next door to the orphanage run by his cousin's wife. Oh, this sounds like a hornet's nest. His younger sister, a pious, disapproving, and unsettling siren, said he has avoided like the plague, said she flattened him 5 years ago. I hate everything I'm reading. While Venus and Galahad lock horns over practically everything, and while her malevolent orphans do the darndest to sabotage his lifelong dream, can either of them take the ultimate gamble and learn to love thy neighbor? So I don't know if I'm having some issue. I'm reading that, and most of it didn't make sense. And in the end, it's just basically about, like, the little impish orphans kind of wrecking stuff, and then this guy happens to have a house next to the orphanage that desperately wants to expand to this empty building next door. I don't know. I don't care about this. It sounds horrible, but it's an audiobook, so it can't be horrible. You can get it November 7th, which already happened. You can buy it from Apple Books, Audible, audiobooks.com, audiobookstore.com, Barnes & Noble, something called Chirp, Google Play Store, Kobo, and Libro FM. Well, that was confusing. I think I'm sweating. Is my heart beating a little stronger in my chest than it should? Well, with that, let's get out of this basement. It's probably part of the problem. And we'll finish reading the rest of this beautiful Thanksgiving Day story. Well, there you are. Get yourself settled. I noticed you haven't eaten your slice of turkey yet. Your single slice of turkey on a cold plate. Is it because it looks wet? Is that the reason why you won't eat it? No, I'm not going to take a bite. I don't have to prove anything to you. It's safe to eat. I've eaten turkey slices all my life. Well, at any point, if you feel a little bit hungry while I'm reading to you, just go ahead. Pick up that wet little cold thing and just slip it into your mouth as I read to you the rest of this book. He told us about the winter, Nan said. The lighthouse lamp is all he can see and the bell buoy all he can hear. She thought a minute. Then she ran over to her father's chair. Oh, I've got a splendid idea, she said. Then she suggested something. Donald and I were planning it for some time. Wouldn't it be beautiful for Thanksgiving? It could be done, couldn't it, Daddy? Her father considered a moment. Then, oh, why, yes, it could. We will, he said. Thanksgiving came in with a northeaster at Fisher's Point. The crew of the lifeboats, straggled down to the pier and stamped to keep warm as they looked out over the choppy sea. The steamer won't make the trip today, they said. She hasn't come across in a week now. Over yonder, they're eating turkey in the families. Oh, wonder if they ever think of sailors who haven't seen the mainland since cranberries were planted. Yeah, and then they fought the wind back to the captains and sat around the stove trying to make their own cheer. Captain Christy put in a few more hunks of wood, and as he bent over the wood basket, one of the men nudged another. See him hold his back, he whispered. The captain's getting old. I hate this story. It's just reminding me about why I'm trying to go to Germany. More lives than he can count. He's brought in, the others whispered back. They started to help the captain, but they were interrupted by 3 shrill blasts of a whistle that sounded from the direction of the sea. New vigor in old limbs, the captain sprang to the door, opening it to a blast of wind that cut like a knife. It's about for the mainland, he shouted. Oh, maybe she's brought the mail. She's weathered the storm for Thanksgiving, boys. It's almost like when you've, it seems it's a bunch of men in a small shed with an old man. And, it seems like it has a theme going on. But whatever. Let's move on. I have nothing intelligent to say there. It's just kind of like, what is it, Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn? All the comments people make about when Tom is on the boat. I'm going to move on. Then he got down his glasses. She's unloading passengers. Who ever heard of that in a gale like this? They got cargo with them. And at last he voiced the climax. Shiver my timbers, lads. But the passengers and the cargo are coming this way. Yeah, you've got a really popular shack. Donald came first, breathless from his run at the beach, his arms fold, and followed by Nan. A happy Thanksgiving, Captain, he shouted. We've come to spend it with you. Father had to pretty nearly buy the steamer to get us over, but here we are. And I brought you a few things to make the winter easier, Nan said. And our chauffeur and father are bringing more things, Donald added. Tinned meats, vegetables and coffee, and milch, and tea, and blankets, books, magazines, a roasted turkey, a big cake, jellies, It did not seem possible that their arms could have brought so much comfort and good cheer. But Captain Christy could not speak at first. Then he brushed a suspicious mist from his eyes, very suspicious, and reached out his hand to Donald. I'm more than grateful, he said huskily. I know it's all the little mate's doing. Then he turned to his crew. Clear the decks, you lazy lubbers, he laughed. This ship's gonna set sail for Thanksgiving. They all managed to crowd around the little deal table that had a piece of sailcloth spread over it for a tablecloth and a bunch of coral in the center to decorate it. A tin pot of coffee on the stove and the warming turkey perfumed the shack. Isn't it jolly? Donald whispered to Nan as he sat on an upturned keg in front of this tin plate. This is like a cartoon I'm watching or something. It's just really weird. Shh, Nan said. The captain's gonna ask a blessing. 4 strong boats and willing arms. And for folks who remember us on the mainland, we give thee thanks, our Lord of the Sea. The captain said, what is he, like a pagan? All right. And there's a moment's hush, and Donald stood up. Father says I may give you this, he said, pulling from his pocket a leather box. He snapped it open, and flashing a gold medal was disclosed in a satin cushion. It's for you for being so brave. Always an arrangement for you to come down to us whenever you feel like it. For we got a room for you in the Sailor's Snug Harbor. Oh, it's a beautiful place just for sailors with ships going by all the time. Green lawns. I never want to see you and hear you tell stories. Well, he stopped for breath. 3 cheers for the captain, said one of the crew. And they all shouted them. I imagine them like none of them are wearing shirts. And Captain Christy pinned on his medal with shaking fingers. Thank you, he said tremulously. Then they had quieted and begun on the turkey. Now that Snug Harbor sounds fine. I'll come to it someday, but this Thanksgiving has put me in trim for a lot of storms yet. Thanks to the little mates. I imagine him tousling the kid's hair. That's how it puts heart in an old sailor when the mainland remembers him. He finished gratefully. Okay, well, why don't we throw this in the fire and then go down to the smoking room where we can review what we just read and smoke a cigarette. Well, here we are. In a different room in the mansion. The smoking room. I'd like to blame my wife for making me buy this place. But I actually got this place before I ever met her. Or at least I ran with this bit. So now I have to pretend like I got to move around and use up all the space. And she decided to add birds to the smoking room, which is also a great bit. A lot of fun to try and ignore when you're reviewing what the hell you just read. What did we just read? I guess the kid's drowning. It doesn't seem like he's drowning till the last minute, and then all of a sudden, like, this volunteer firefighter of a beach lifeguard suddenly shows up in his boat with a bunch of boys in the back of it. And he gets up there and he saves the brother and brings him back. What's his name? Donald? I don't know. And he brings him back and says, "Oh, we need to get you close to the fire." But the kid sounded like he was fine. Also, it's got to be a hot summer day, so I'm sure the kid's not freezing. It's not like he was out in the ocean for hours or something. He just went out too far, and then whatever. You had to go save him. So bringing him back to the shed seems like an unnecessary thing and seems like a predatory thing. Or I'm just making it weird. I guess being raised looking for stranger danger, stories like this are a little off-putting. And so then he brings it back and it just kind of does the bare minimum. I got clam chowder. And then the kid's like, give me that clam chowder. Because you don't deserve the clam chowder. But here it is anyways. And probably tousles his hair. And then after that, he's like, why don't you come back? I'm real lonely. Which is also, everything about this story is really creepy. But then the kids just take off and they're gone. But then, for some weird reason, Thanksgiving Day rolls around, and so this is, well past the summer when they were out there, and they're like, "Oh, Father, can we go visit him?" And the dad's like, "Okay, I'm just going to basically pay off someone to go through a storm, put my whole family at risk just to give this guy, we could go on a day when the storm's not crazy. But no, we got to do it on Thanksgiving. Whatever. So then they get out there and they find the old man in his small shack, packed wall to wall with boys. All of his weird volunteer lifeguard boys just sitting around waiting for some kind of lifeguard emergency in the wintertime. I don't know what they're doing. I imagine them shirtless, but then again, I'm probably just making it weird. And so then they show up and they all have Thanksgiving. And the old man prays to the sea, which is a little weird. But I mean, it's fine. I'm not trying to. I don't got anything against paganism, but stories like this are usually really bent towards Christianity, like in a ridiculous way. I mean, for the love of God, Thanksgiving is a holiday where we're thanking God that the Native Americans helped the Pilgrims survive the winter by giving them like a big meal and they couldn't figure out how to farm. And then ignoring the part where after that, these same Pilgrims spent all their time killing them and making them move to small reservations. And so it's like, usually it's like, well, how do you cover that up? Well, you slap Jesus in there as hard as you can and try to pretend like it never happened. Give it a positive spin. So this story to suddenly have the old man be like, God of the sea, thank you for this warm meat. It was a little weird for me, I guess, but I don't really give that much of a crap. So with that, I hope your Thanksgiving isn't spent trying to hide injustices. I hope that your Thanksgiving has a more positive angle towards the Christ, and that you can just enjoy yourself with your family. If not, just have your headphones in while you listen to this episode and just stare at everyone on the table. And then when they say, what are you listening to? You spit at them. All right, well, with that, thanks for listening. Good Nacht. That's me trying to survive another country. And I will probably see you next week. Well, it appears you found me in the part of the podcast I hate the most, where I tell you all about the places on the internet where you can find me. You can tell I hate this because of the sound effects making it sound like a stormy night in the drawing room of the damned. Now, there's that. Are you cool? I like cool people. It's the reason why I got involved in this business to begin with, just to meet cool people, not losers. So if you're cool, feel free to go over to my website, nuzzlehouse.com, which just points you to my link tree. Everything's on the link tree. Just go to the link tree if you want to see where I am. And of course, link tree has the dumbest URL in the world. linktr.ee/nuzzlehouse. It's the dumbest thing. If you go to nuzzlehouse.com, it's just going to reroute you over there after giving you some weird error about it not being secure. I hate it. I hate the internet. But if you go there, you get to hear some of the other stuff that I and my wife work on, like the Radio Mystery Theater show, where we try to recreate the same show that used to be on in the 70s, but they don't make any episodes anymore. So we make our own, and we just steal all their commercials. And also, just in the curious mind, we made a Christmas album. If you go to our link tree, you can see that we made a Christmas album. It's the first thing we did after getting married, which I think everyone should do when they get married, is start talking about the Christmas album they're going to make. And we're working on a new show where we give relationship advice by reading paranormal smut. And since I think you might be cool, you can always just email me directly, glenn.nuzzles@gmail.com. But don't email if you're a nerdling or a dork. Now, back to business. I can't believe I drank all of them already. There's got to be one left.